Hello and welcome to Exploring Glorantha. I am JM, and with me as always is my co-host Evan. He had to go play some Depeche Mode before he jumped on here, and I think that's what you said to me as you were walking away. So we're back with the last episode of the year. It has been a tougher scheduling this year, and that's really on me. Like losing access to my house for 3 months kind of derailed many of the plans I had for the second half of this year. But we're back. We're going to wrap up this year with this was a request by Realm Builder Guy, a good friend of ours who plays in our Wednesday group, Matthias, going, JM, one of the key things about Glorantha is the fact that everyone has magic, and magic is just pervasive and ubiquitous in a way that it is not in many other settings. Could you walk through the different types of magic and kind of explain them and tell me why they're important? And we went, yes.
Yes, we can.
So, Evan, in summation, no.
Right.
So let's talk about magic in Glorantha, because here's the thing, especially if you're coming from a more traditional fantasy setting, Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, the Dragon Empire, any D&D outgrowth setting, you may have your own views of high magic versus low magic. Glorantha is, I would say, pervasively magical in a way that D20 games don't even touch. Even in your highest of high magic settings, there's more magic in Glorantha, but it is not necessarily always a high. There are spikes of high magic, but for the most part in the Third Age, it is like a pervasive middle magic. It would be how I would describe it. How would you introduce somebody to the concept of the pervasiveness of magic in Glorantha?
Yeah. Building on it's pervasive. That magic is part of the acknowledged fabric of the universe. It's baked in a way that people relate to the world, and that means that in some ways it's probably truer to the way that earlier cultures of human beings actually related to the world. That there were all sorts of mysteries of nature, the environment, the landscape, and you invoked various things. You had household gods. You had a sense of personal spirits of protection, ancestors or totems, and so this is a world where you inevitably are interacting with an unseen and spiritual world on a very similar, if not equal, footing to the material world that of objects and the day-to-day.
And there's no real separation for the Gloranthan mind, much like there was no separation for basically anything pre-Enlightenment in our world, right? The idea is that's all of the little prayers and rituals and folklore that is part of a ritualized and holistic life in the ancient world. All of those are power in Glorantha. They all work. So when the smith says his ritualized prayer to the household gods, or just to the spirit of the fire and the blade as he is getting ready to put them together, that has power. The warrior's rites before he goes into battle, like praying to the spirit of his weapons and armor, or for protection. That's really what spirit magic is in Glorantha. It is this pervasive interacting with the other side through liturgy, ritual, and prayer. But again, if you're coming from a D&D side of things, there is no differentiation between what we would call kind of arcane and divine magic. I mean, we'll get into sorcery in a couple of months, but the idea here is that spirit magic is the ubiquitous magic that everyone who lives in Glorantha has access to. It doesn't matter what cult you belong to. It doesn't matter to what cosmological view of the world. It is because the other side is so interwoven with the God time and the material world, or the physical world. I don't want to say material world because that distinction doesn't work. They're so enmeshed that these little prayers and rituals, as Evan said, to like minor spirits and to household deities, and just those have power, and everyone has access to that magic.
Yeah. And I'd say, of
Thanks,
course,
Jonathan.
you can delve as deeply or as shallowly into this. Like, it can be part of like everybody's mode of play all the time. You might just like, have it in the background and then foreground it for a particular adventure. You could just use the mechanics and, not have to explain, why spirit magic works. It just does. And just like, we don't think about, what's going on in the internal combustion engine when I push the button to start my car.
Or when I flip the light switch, what's going on with the
right.
Ohm's law to make sure that
That's right. If we're playing Call of Cthulhu, we're not thinking about the common things that just make life work. Mm-hmm. But we're delving into this to give the framework so that you can sort of open the aperture as narrowly or as widely as you want in using this. It's a system, a magic system. There's mechanics to it.
Yes,
but it has a coherent explanation for the characters in the world, which can enrich the experience of play.
Yes, and magic is not this rare and esoteric thing in Glorantha. Magic is, again, pervasive throughout the whole of the world. Why do rivers flow downhill? It's not because of physics. It's because, the sea god called all of his vassals to help him, fill Magasta's maw. That's magic. Why do diseases threaten the world? Well, it's not because of microbes or science. It's because Malia, the mother of diseases, sends out evil spirits that work their way through injury into your body, and therefore cause disease and death. And the other thing to remember is, because of I want to come up with a better term than pervasive, but because of the ubiquitous, I'm just using this synonyms for the same thing, because of how much magic there is in the world, while RuneQuest is a very deadly game and Glorantha is a deadly world to live in, magical healing in the world is readily accessible to basically everyone, because everyone can learn the spirit magic for healing. They know how to bind a wound. They know how to call in the spirits to have the and the elementals and the gods to protect a wound from injury and to heal faster. Spirit magic makes the deadliness of Glorantha, it counterbalances with the fact that, compared to our Bronze Age, people in Glorantha live a much healthier and better existence.
Yeah.
I will not
Um,
say the next line of that rhyme, but I do know what you're talking about, Cryptrite, and I would like to. I would like to make it if you know what I'm talking about. So sorry, Evan. Evan's like, now I can. He can see all of the comments. He's going to be distracted all of the time.
that's right. Yeah, and so one of the consequences of that, of course, is that as Orlanth says, violence is always an option, and that option is, people are less worried about getting hurt because you can call upon the spirits to fix that. Your village healer is likely, if you have them close, right? And that's why you take the healers to the battlefield. I mean, they can, when you lose that left arm, they can pick it up and put it back on if they
Hopefully,
get there quickly enough,
yeah.
right? um and rune magic also, we'll talk about that next time, but
Yes.
is but even with just the 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 most common, but also sort of the least efficient in many ways, magic, the weakest magic, you can do pretty miraculous things. So
Yes. And
so
as you said, it's the most common. It's also like very specialized and very useful. If you look through the spirit
mhm.
magic and the Red Book of Magic, spirit magic is sort of the everyday. I need these things to help my day go easier for me. Um, Now, here's the other thing about spirit magic. It 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 is weaker than rune magic. It is weaker than sorcery.
Yeah.
It is also far more consistent and reliable. You also get your spirit
Yeah.
your magic points back for spirit magic much quicker than you get rune points back from for using rune magic. And so the key, I would say, from a player perspective, is that always look to your spirit magic. And Evan and I have talked about the deadliness of combat in RuneQuest. That is heavily mitigated by being able to realize if I have several moments to prepare, I can call on a lot of different spirit magic tricks that's going to help me get through this. In RuneQuest, I always warn my players, if you get drawn into a fight, an immediate fight, it will most likely go bad for you. It's going to go bad for everybody. But if you can find a way to de escalate or buy yourself the time to work through blade sharp and protection and all of these different little spirit magics, you're going to give yourself, you're going to swing the odds immensely into your favor. But it's not just all combat. Like that's like, again, it's useful things. So like increasing your coordination, detecting life, detecting magic, never underestimate demoralize. That thing is, and that's the beauty of it. They're all of these counterbalanced spirit magic things because again, it's a conversation with the spirits of the world. So in the same way that you would be like, please, Father Iron sharpen or Father Ron sharpen my blade, or set out a prayer to an ancestral god to aid in your ability to shoot at an opponent. The flip side of that is, well, hey, dull their blades. Make it so that their blades don't find purchase in our flesh. Dull blade is the counterbalance to blade sharp. Very powerful magic.
Yeah.
I would agree, Cryptrite. Yeah, Eberron has a similar feel to if we could have magic everywhere, what would that look like? All right. So Evan, you wrote that it concerns the communication with the spirits that reside throughout Glorantha. How do you, like, if you're explaining spirit magic? I mean, rune magic, I think, is probably the easiest for us as role players to understand. I worship Orlanth. I have this many rune points, which means I know this many rune spells. They are the great big flashy magic of the world. And I only get those rune points back on high holy days or when I go to pilgrimages. It makes sense. Spirit magic may give may need a little bit more explanation. So how would you explain to a new player, here is how, not mechanically, but like in world, here is how spirit magic works?
Yeah. Well, so as we've said, there are spirits everywhere, and the magic comes from your alliance with the spirit that can do this magic. So one of the mechanical things about spirit magic is that you're limited by your charisma. Well, that's because it's your personality, your relationship, your force of internal um, will in a persuasive sort of way that ties the spirit to you. It's why it will hang around you, because it knows that you will feed it your magic through the mechanics of magic points, and then it will do this little trick for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we're used to giving sort of setting out creatures. There's a free spirit, a ghost, something that a shaman might bind, etc. But there are things that are smaller, right, than that. Just like there's molecules and atoms below, the creatures that we might encounter. These spirits are the stuff of reality, because everything has spirits within them. And so when you're looking at your focus, your link with the spirit in the unseen world, which is all around you, and then it's doing its trick, and you're doing it through a prayer, a chant, a song, some little thing that is your link to that otherworldly piece of the universe. And in response, it does something very predictable that you can do every day, that's part of your toolbox. And so it's not just a spell. You haven't memorized it. You have built a relationship with the universe, which allows you to do these little changes and affect reality just a little bit. It makes your sword a little sharper. It makes your enemies afraid, and
it makes the crops grow a little better. It makes
right.
Well, and Jason brought up a good point.
Yeah,
it works a lot like elf magic does in the text of Lord of the Rings, and the fact that it's not what do you mean by magic? It's just the way we do things, right? I have just made this sword. Now, the way we just described it, if you were familiar with like Bronze Age pagan religions, that's the way paganism basically works, is you are sacrificing something of yourself in an exchange with this otherworldly entity, right? It's not necessarily an animal sacrifice in this case, but as Evan said, you are feeding the spirit a bit of your magic in return for this gift. Are you with us, Evan?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Dude. So
Evan, the spirits are messing with our connection, I think, but we're gonna soldier
just a little bit. We're gonna keep recasting that until this spirit magic of communication goes off. All right, so the Red Book of Magic really kind of helps us understand this a little bit better. Like, there is a ton of spirit magic in the core book, which, as far as I understand, this core book may be soon to be exchanged for something else, which I'm looking forward to. But the Red Book of Magic really kind of helps delve into not just new spells and new techniques, it delves into what is it like to live in a world of in the world of Glorantha with the magic. So Evan, do you want to walk us through kind of what the Red Book talks about how like spirit magic appears and feels and sounds in the moment?
Yeah. So the spirit magic is again, I think it's individualized, of course, and so that allows for some role playing opportunities if you want to encourage your players to tell you what happens when you cast Blade Sharp. What does the little spirit that follows you around do for you? But the things that they've told us that it's like is that you focus and there's a little glow to your sword for Blade Sharp. You cast shimmer and your body appears to move of its own accord or to be kind of blurry. When Baturian Varash in his travels talks about how there's a boy named Marek with him whose hand is chopped off by a great troll, and he runs over and he sings over. He clearly has at least healing 6, right? So mechanically you can put the limb back together. He finds the hand, he takes it to Marek, who is incapacitated, right? Your limb gets cut off, you're not in a good shape, and he sings over it, and the sinew and flesh and skin knit itself back together because he's invoked the spirit and given his magic to it in order to accomplish that. It's visible. It's very hard. You can't really stealth spell, at least not as a default. Like the magic may or may not be flashy, but
it has people will be aware of it.
That's right. Maybe it's a feeling. It causes maybe a tingling or a little sound, little bells, or the sound of pins dropping. But
is it sometimes more than a feeling?
Indeed. But if somebody's casting a detect spell on you, you are aware of that. Now, of course, a mean game master might then figure out, oh well, but my special enemies, they know how to cast spells. They have a secret. Maybe you have a secret out there, but then that's a whole quest. It's like you first find out, oh, there's a way to secretly cast spells without it being traced back to you. It's like, oh, and first you find out because one of the bad guys does it to you, and then you're like, oh, I want to be able to do that. After I kill that guy, I want to be able to do that. And maybe that is a worthy sort of exploration or quest.
It could be a hero quest,
right? Yeah. Right. So, it's going to be visible. It's going to be, you don't have the luxury of it just happening. You have a ritual or a process that involves, again, a focus or a fetish that helps you connect with the magic. Mechanically, it also says, oh, if you don't have your focus on you, which is one of the first things you do, is you take all the foci that you can away from somebody and cover up their magic focusing tattoos so they can't cast magic while you're have them captive, unless, of course, they agree. Of course, this is there are many cultures, honorable cultures, who will agree to, because you're going to ransom them. to remain prisoner. But if it's a dangerous enemy, then you need to make sure you take all of the things away that make them more effective in doing magic. So that's another sort of mechanical, but also has a role playing component to their hidden focus that allows them to cast some nasty spell, even though you have them captive. You can cast magic. It takes longer and it's more obvious as you fix the image or the sequence of things in your mind before you can connect with the spirit to cast the spell. But all of these things can have as much gameplay implications as you like, because you can just say, oh, you want to cast it without a focus, well, it's going to take you 2 rounds. But it can be a richer area of explanation. It's like, well, you're used to having your sword where the symbol for your spirit is engraved, and you've picked up the enemy's sword. You have no focus on you, so you're going to have to what things do you do to over these 2 rounds to reach out to the spirit to cast a blade sharp on it. That's something that can help sort of make the players feel more part of the world.
So mechanically, this is a mechanical system within RuneQuest, right? It is a magic system trying to replicate the fiction of the world. And as we've talked about, RuneQuest is a very simulationist game. So they're trying to allow us to feel as if all of the fictional components of this world of Glorantha, of living in this world of Glorantha, have mechanical references to them. So when you're learning spirit magic, you are limited to how many spirit magic spells you can know. That's based off your charisma. The charisma in RuneQuest is much more like the old use of the word as opposed to the D&D use of the word, right? The favor of the gods, if you will. Like, yes, it does affect other things, but right, how much spirit magic can you hold? As Evan said, there has to be some sort of focus. And I think the next time I run RuneQuest, I would ask every person to kind of just say, hey, what's your focus for this? Something to keep track of the GM as things change. So this is one of the great, we see all of this great art in this new edition of RuneQuest with everybody with all of their tattoos and all of their jewelry. The thing to remember is those tattoos are not just cultic symbols, as in I belong to Humak, so obviously I have the runes of death tattooed on my body. That is part of the case, but a lot of these tattoos are also foci for your spirit magic. A lot of this jewelry, a lot of these runes and symbols that you carve into your weapons and armor, they are physical anchors for your spirit magic. And then basically yes, Mark, possibly a new RuneQuest campaign. There's a new rule book coming out, and we know what a guppy I am for that. Dave is right. Yeah, it gives you a reason to actually have charisma be valuable outside of just, hey, I'm talking here. When you go to cast spirit magic, most of the time you're going to be rolling power times 5, trying to get under that, spending your magic points. And again, magic points are not just this sort of nebulous thing. They represent your spiritual essence. So when your magic points hit 0, nighty-night, as you pass out on wherever you're at, because you basically exhausted your spirit to the point where it just cannot enliven you at this point, and then leaves you open to more of those limbs removal that we keep talking about. Let's see here. Jason said, yeah, not much different than meditation practices in real life. Then there are times where there is a resistance roll that needs to be made. This would be an analog in D20 games to a save, or in Savage Worlds, kind of your attribute roll versus a power. And essentially, you compare your power to your opponent's power, and the resistance roll table is just brilliant. Basically, if they're equal, you have a 50-50 chance of affecting the person, or they have a 50-50 chance of resisting it, because it is the resistance table. For every point off, it's a 5% swing in the favor of the higher stat. So if I am trying to demoralize Evan, and my power is 14 and Evan's power is 10, if mine's 14 and his is 14, he needs to roll 50% or less on percentile dice. If mine's 14 and his is 10, well, now there's a 20% swing there. So now he has a 30% chance of resisting my magic. If mine's 14 and his is 18, again, a 4-point swing in the other direction, well, now he has a 70% chance of resisting my magic. And the thing is about power is a very difficult stat to increase. And there are so many things in the game that require you to sacrifice power permanently to basically rune magic. When we get in there, you are sacrificing permanently of your essence and devoting that to your deity, and then gaining knowledge in return. So your power will actually fluctuate over the course of a campaign, which again I think is just brilliant mechanically. And like looking over at my bookshelf of Bronze Age magical texts, very, very in line with how the ancient world saw things. And then we've talked before about passions and your runes. You can augment rolls, which is, great. I really hate Evan's lunar loving self, so I can call on that patron of the lunars to augment my resistance rolls, or my rolls to affect his lunar hating ass, or lunar loving ass, I should say. But the other thing to keep in mind is, Mark had a question. The Red Book of Magic is not a lunar book, but refers to the Invisible Gods texts, correct?
That's right. That's right. There's a brown book of magic, a blue book of magic, a red book of magic. And they were all originally written by Zabur, the first wizard. So who is still kicking around somewhere on Brithos, wherever Brithos is.
I'm looking over at my Gods of War game and remembering that the books of magic are part of the hero quest for the Invisible God. Those are books you can put into play. Yep. And they're fantastic.
Yep. And this is my little tear for my still never having received my God's War.
It's like I said, everything that we are hearing is saying soon.
Mm-hmm.
But like, when will then be now, Sandy?
It's okay.
Soon. Hey, you get to
play. I love Sandy.
Sister, hopefully,
it's all right.
At TPK. Now, if you're playing with strike ranks, which is default Glorantha, spirit magic, just it's the magic points plus your dex. Magic points that you're spending adds to your dex for what rank things go off on. That's really kind of the main mechanic. I mean, there are other mechanical bits, and when I post this outline, you will see all the other mechanical bits. Like the spell limits and the range is based off of different things, as is the duration. But Evan, let's start. Let me ask you a question that's not on the outline that you have prepared, which, by the way, as always, Evan puts in so much time and effort into pulling together just the juiciest, tenderest banquet of knowledge for us to share on this show. And then it's my job to speed eat through the entire banquet, hitting just the choicest morsels and putting the rest into the slop dish that is the PDF that I send out to our patrons. But Evan, as always, thank you so much for all of your work here. Let me ask you this: from a player's perspective, what are like your top 3 favorite spirit magic spells?
I think, again, I began when it was always called Battle Magic, and
Yes.
so it was. There were things that, as an adventurer, you just needed to have protection,
Yep.
demoralize.
I was like,
I
don't
think yeah,
befuddle and demoralize are my top two spirit magics to
it's
use
really
against players.
it's really tough, befuddle or demoralize. But I think I've become more of a demoralize fan because it's just, I mean, you could, because the if you successfully cast it, of course, it doesn't matter how awesome the other side is, it's now only half as awesome, and
Yeah.
that's really useful. And then healing six. What can
Healing 6. Get it as
healing
quickly
six?
as possible.
I'm gonna pick that arm up and I'm gonna put it back on. And
Because as Rob Hainsot likes to say, there are sanity points in all Chaosium games. They're just called limbs in RuneQuest. You will lose them at a frightening rate. And if you don't have a way to put them back on,
yeah, well, when you need to become friends with someone who knows regrow limb, but
yeah. That's why the Chalana Arroy Priestess are so popular. I also like to say I like lantern or light. Like I think having a very simple, accessible light spell, especially in a world where dark vision is not pervasive because most of you are playing humans, having a light spell is very, very important.
right, but it's not overpowered. Again, spirit magic, it's only going to last 10 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
but but
And
can
it's
be
not even as good as
critical.
daylight. It's
Yeah.
basically like a torch or a candle
Mhm.
or something.
Right, but at those critical junctures, the ability to create light in darkness is pretty miraculous.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on your Glorantha will vary the things that you want to make complications at your table, um, or things that you just feel frustrated with, and it's like I just don't want to track that. But if you have your folks going down into dark, scary places, um, uh, making the ability to have light extremely critical. And if you lose your oil and your torches get wet, you can make light because you're tied to
Yeah.
everybody's making fun of you, Malio. You don't have any fire, etc. Blah blah blah. Oh wait, you can make light in
That's
darkness.
right.
Oh, please be our friends. We're going down to fight some crush kids or something. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I want to stress, and this is something I love that comes out of my love of games like Savage Worlds or Adventure Conqueror King. It's the way I run. When we were playing our 2e D&D game, it's the way I ran that. What you need to understand about spirit magic is what's in the book is God learner heresy. No, is the fact that the God learners were like, hey, all of these different ways of making a blade sharper, they all work the same way. So we're going to call it blade sharp. And so, like, the codex of spells that are in the book are much like the Call of Cthulhu spells. I don't know if you've read through, like, the Grand Grimoire of Call of Cthulhu, where they're like, these are the most boring names for the spells because we just wanted to tell you what they do. In Glorantha, as players or as GMs, but I love pushing this on players. What is your character called Blade Sharp? What does your character call Confusion? Allow them to name their spells and allow them to have their own trappings because everyone's way of invoking light or heal 6 or demoralize is going to look a little bit differently. Let them come up with their trappings, and if in some situation where their version of the spell, because of the way they've described it, may give them a bonus. Reward them with that. Give them a bonus to their die roll. Increase the level of success by one. Do something to reward them for that, but allow them to theme it and make it theirs. What is their foci? What do they call it? And what does it look like? You get those 3 pieces of information for all 6 of the starting spirit magic spells that a player starts with. That player is going to have a really good grasp on what their spirit magic is and does. And then for you, you're rewarding them as the GM every time you describe their dull blade, which they call, like, the spirit of Verdigris. Let's call it that. And, as you describe the enemy's weapons slowly being coated in this blue-green patina, and like you start to see the edge of their blade kind of dull, that player is going to be like, awesome, the GM is thinking about what my magic looks like based off what I told them. And that provokes engagement, which, I mean, it's just awesome. Well, Evan, we got through our outline, save for the last section. I'm doing my job as well as you did yours. So let's start with adventure hooks, because again, right, we've talked about, what are some of the spirit magic spells we like, where to find them, how it works. But again, coming back to the fact that this is designed to get you playing Glorantha as quickly as possible, or incorporating these things in your game as quickly as possible. Let's start with adventure hooks. You had, let's start with your first 2. You had shaman quests and lost spells. How would you?
Yeah, well, so, if you have a shaman, either, who is a prominent NPC, or, someone who is, starts out as an assistant shaman and becomes a shaman in your play group, then their link and connection with spirits is, they have signaled, that's what I want. This is the secret sauce for me to have fun in this game. And, of course, mechanically it says, hey, shamans can find any spell, like even cult secret spells. It's like, okay, but it's not like, oh, you just go down to the spell store and there's the little spirit waiting in, aisle 7 to, you need to do a quest. And this quest can be both through the unseen world, but also because there is a correspondence between the unseen world and the physical world, you may need to go to a physical place, a special place, in order to maybe even start on the trail of this. Because, of course, you don't want to tell the cult who has the spell secret that, oh, by the way, I'm going to steal your secret and I'm going to use it for myself and my friends. And of course, through the quest, you might be, attracting upset members of that quest, of that cult, who are like, no, we're not going to let you do that. People who steal our spells, we kill. So I think that's one sort of thing that is useful. Also, the idea of, what if the shaman is looking for something, they've learned something, maybe from, they summoned an ancestor and the ancestor mentioned, oh yeah, in my day we used to have this spell that did this awesome thing. It's like, oh, nobody around here knows that spell. Nobody has a relationship with that spirit. And so maybe you're going to find something lost. So maybe you even say, hey, you can create a spell, but then you're not going to be able to use it until you find the spirit that actually does that. And that's going to be a whole adventure.
Yeah, I love that idea. Now, there are spirit cults that can give you like unusual abilities, special abilities. You can learn spirit magic through your rune cult. Your rune cult has listings of what spirit magic are available. Now, granted, again, that's not just it's not Final Fantasy. That's not just as simple as going in and placing your gil on the table and getting your magic spell that now is slotted in your inventory. rune cults will teach you magic and they will charge you for it, but they will also ask you for something, because this is like, right, we're in a Bronze Age situation. Magic is knowledge and knowledge is power. So what have you done for the cult lately so that I would teach you this level of blade sharp, or I will teach you this level of healing, or I will teach you, X, Y, or Z. And then, of course, this one I think gets, at least in my experience, and Evan, you can tell me about your experience. This is the one that tends to get quite often forgotten. Is that you have your clan's whiter, your the spirit of your Tula, of your clan, and that spirit is going to have knowledge that it can impart to defend itself, the people of your community, the community itself. But again, that's another spirit that is going to thing to remember about spirit magic, learning it as well as using it, is there is a transactional nature to it. What will you do for the clan so that its spirit will teach you this spell? And yeah, I like that. In your games, do you remember the community spirit, or is sometimes that
It so on my two RuneQuest games that are currently on hiatus, unfortunately, uh, we did not have any real focus on a whiter for my Heroes of Apple Lane, at least not yet. On the other hand, for my Exiles in Duraster, they began with the responsibility of building a fort community up up closer to the dangerous part. And they actually went on a quest to get a lightning spirit to be the whiter of their fort.
awesome?
So they had to climb up the big mountain and attract the lightning spirit and fight off countervailing forces who were trying to prevent them from bargaining with it to join their community. So sort of 50-50.
Excellent. Well, Evan, thank you so much, not only for putting this together, but also for taking time to chat with me about this. I love spirit magic. It's one of the things that drew me to Glorantha all those years ago, and the fact that it is a setting that promises to be highly magical and then mechanically reinforces that. And I would say out of all of the different magic systems, we're kind of starting with the easiest. Like, I think everyone who comes to Glorantha, no matter where they're coming from, especially because really this system is the system that you find most often in video games, like just mechanically. I have a pool of points. I have a list of spells. How do I use my pool of points best to implement this list of spells? When we get into rune magic, we get more power, a little bit more complexity. We get into sorcery, we get a ton of power. And I'm going to just take a nap while Evan explains sorcery. And then shamanism, which no one understands, but we're going to do our best to explain it. Any final thoughts on spirit magic before we wrap this one up, Evan?
Well, I do see that we had a question in the chat about what about the, how dare you, abomination of the skill of Lunars to manipulate spirit magic. Well, the Lunars, of course, say that that is a completely new form of magic. It's not just spirit magic. It's innovation above and beyond. And so we're not delving into that. I mean, I'm sorry, initiate, you have not quite come to the level of knowing the goddess to be ready for that. But you have to be illuminated to be able to understand the world enough and its secrets in order to be able to do that. It's well described in the Cults of RuneQuest Lunar book.
Yes.
And so I'd have to refer you to that for now, but hopefully we will delve more deeply into the secrets of the goddess again in a future episode.
I think we can definitely definitely take that sidetrack. Well, that's it. That's the end of our year in exploring Glorantha and our end of our episode here. So, you know what? I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. We'll be back in January where we're going to be talking about Rude Magic. And, you know, until then, you know, I'm going to steal Evan's line. We are all us. Oh, now what are you going to say?
There's always another way.
Oh, damn it. All right. Well, until next time, everybody, have a good one. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. With me, as always, my co host, Evan. This has been Exploring Glorantha. We will see you all next year. Have a good one.